Welcome to Community Cocktails with Kimberly, hosted by Kimberly Woodard, a realtor for nearly 20 years with Ebby Halliday Realtors. Join her every first and third Wednesday of the month as she meets with the top community influencers to help you get to know the area you want to call home. Don't just love your home, love your community. And now, your host, Kimberly Woodard.
Hi viewers, I am so excited about today's episode. I have some friends here from Serious Plumbing and Air, Jeni and Brent Garrett, and we're going to talk about ACs. It is that time of year where you can't deal with that one. So welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. Well, I thought, our viewers want to know a little bit. Let's talk about your business first and how you guys got started.
Sure.
Okay.
So we are a locally owned and operated plumbing and air conditioning company based out of Carrollton. Mm-hmm. And we do service mostly residential, but we do some commercial as well.
Okay.
So Collin County, Denton County, and some of Dallas County is, I would say, our major target markets. So we do cover a wide area.
Definitely.
And we've been in business now for about 15 years in the area. And continue to grow and have lots of great repeat customers, and we're always looking for new customers, obviously, and we love educating people on how to properly service their HVAC equipment and then any other questions that they may have about their home.
Awesome. And with our booming market, the growth, you guys have been in the business to watch that growth.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's talk about, this is that time of year where, the temperatures are unusual right now for the end of May, 1st of June, but they are on the upclimb. And by August, I'm sure your phones start to ring.
Absolutely.
Panics.
Yep.
So what can we do as homeowners to really take care of our, AC and, help? Of course, things are going to happen. That's just with any mechanical item. But what are some things that the consumer can do to help with their systems?
So let's start off with what you can do at your home by yourself.
Yeah.
Without having to call a service company. One is we need to keep the system clean.
Okay.
First thing we want to check is the filter. And I'll have to say, the cobbler's son has no shoes. There are times when I don't check my own filter. So the best thing to do is now just mark your calendar and check it once a month.
Yeah.
And filters are easily obtained at a hardware store, Home Depot, anything like that. You can order them online. We're happy to provide them for you during our service visits by the box, so that you can have them. Great idea if you do have a company that's regularly maintaining the system. It's usually going to be twice a year. So what we can do is put a box up in your attic, and you can put the old ones in there.
Yep.
Pull out the new ones, replace them, right?
Yep.
Make sure you date them, and then we'll haul off the old ones when we come
cool.
visit. So yeah.
Oh, very cool. Well, yes, I see my share of people that maybe forgot about that. That needs to be done. So that's a great tip. So next.
Yeah, no.
Next.
Another thing that might be a little bit outside of a homeowner's capability if they're uncomfortable around electricity and water because they don't mix.
No, they don't.
But the outdoor unit, the box outside,
Yes.
we call that the condenser.
Right.
And it has a coil much like the radiator in your car. And we get a lot of cottonwood and a lot of things in the air, and it gets on that radiator or that what we call the coil on the outdoor unit. If that gets plugged, then we're not able to get the heat out of the house. So that needs to be either water washed or chemically washed.
Okay.
We need to turn the power off to the unit before we do that. And
Number one, turn power off to the unit.
there's 220 volts going to that, so it might be a good idea to have a professional or a technician, a licensed technician, to go and clean that coil, check the system. We do a number of things at the same time. Spring and fall are the times when to check, and that's something you can do on your own.
Yes.
If you're not comfortable with it, we certainly can do that for you.
Definitely. Well, I would say both of those things and my share of, home looking and inspections. It's amazing. So everyone, today, these are your two things to do. But remember, before you clean that condenser, turn off the electric. So is there anything else we should, be looking for?
Well, so cleaning the unit or changing the filter is going to extend the life of the system.
Okay.
Okay. But it's also going to lower your utility bills. And there's another list of things you can do to lower utility bills. Setback thermostats, they're digital.
Okay.
And typically they'll set for a week, Monday through Friday, and usually have at a minimum 3 different times. So when you leave to go to work,
Right.
when you come back, and then when you go to sleep. So other thermostats have other capabilities, but most setback thermostats are able to do that. And then you can do the same thing for Saturday and Sunday if you have a different lifestyle during the weekend.
Right.
That can save you up to 20%
Oh,
on your
wow.
utility bills in comparison to what we call a standard setback thermostat. Think of your mom and dad's round thermostat,
Yes.
Honeywell, where you just set it to one temperature and leave it, and if you don't remember to change it, then the system just continues to run.
Right, and that's a huge savings, especially when everyone is trying to save a little here and there.
Sure.
That can really make a difference on your monthly expenses. So, well, of course, we get into this time of year, and we get I'm sure you get the calls at 10 o'clock at night, because I do, and I send them, and their AC doesn't work.
Right.
So, and we've got lots of things that are, going on. Before we make that call to you, is there anything we should do to check before we make that emergency call at the 10 o'clock, at night?
Yeah, that's a great question. Number one, turn the system to the off position.
Okay.
And we'll talk a little bit why. But the other thing is that you can leave the fan in the on position to move some air through your home.
Okay.
Especially if it's really hot. You
Yes.
might want to do the best we can. By turning the system off, we're not going to create any more damage to the system.
Okay.
If let's say the indoor part of the system is not running, but the outdoor box that we talked about earlier is running, we can cause some damage to the compressor. Okay.
Yeah.
And the compressor is the heart of the system that's inside the condenser.
Okay.
So, and it's a very expensive part to replace. Just one of the things to do is to turn the system in the off position. You'll have a heat cool.
Yes.
Just turn it in the off position, and you can turn your fan on. You're not going to hurt the system by doing
Okay.
that.
Oh, that's a great tip. So, especially, I think we just panic and we just immediately call. That gives a little bit, and we definitely will have that air circulating through the house. Which that's the other thing. Everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, it's 100." Well,
Do you know how hot it is? We get that.
yes, and you're like, yes, I do. So the other thing is, I know this happens a lot, and I see this is those clogged secondary drain lines.
Sure.
How do we, is there anything, do we just, obviously we, watch it drip, but is there anything that we can, do to help us with maybe, before it starts to drip? Is there any signs that we should be looking for or anything, or just look for the drip?
Absolutely. So when you're changing your filters on a
Yes.
regular basis, right?
Once a month.
Yeah.
Once a month.
It's a good idea to check and see. Some systems are designed a little differently. You'll find some are in closets and some are in attics.
Yes.
We call one a vertical or an upflow, and the other's a horizontal. The horizontals are up in the attics. Up in the attic's a little easier to tell because there's a auxiliary drain pan. It's a safety pan that sits under. If that line clogs up, that secondary drain pan takes over. So when you're up there changing your filter, take a look in there. If you see any water or rust or anything like that, it's probably a good idea to make a phone call.
Okay.
I would also say, as a precautionary, everybody should have what's called a float switch.
Okay.
Okay. If that secondary pan doesn't or is clogged up as well, the switch will turn off the unit and not flood your house. And we don't want that.
No,
So,
we do not want that. That's
so-
even more expensive.
There's two things that you can do as a preventative action. One is that a little bit, about a cup of bleach down the drain line, and usually there's a T where you'll see a standpipe, and you can pour bleach down there because we've got water and dirt, and then we get algae,
Right.
and that's what happens to those pipes. Typically in the Dallas area, it's draining into a sink, and that sink can become backed up as well.
Yeah.
It's always a good idea, and we haven't talked much about it, have your system checked twice a year.
Yeah.
It's standard on most companies' checklist to clear out that line, and they do that by blowing compressed air through the lines.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So we've got our tips. We've got that we need to sign up if you don't have a plan to have your AC serviced twice a year, once before taking it before you use the AC. But we do sometimes use that AC all year long.
Yes, we do.
And then then right before that furnace time, and we haven't talked about the furnace. I mean, I know this time people really don't think about that, but it is also good to make sure that that's there's should be that's shut off during this time of year and stuff.
yeah, so when we think about furnace, that's with gas.
Yeah.
And an air handler is electric.
Okay.
Okay, so we have both here in this
Right.
area. The gas furnace and the air handler both have the blower wheel in there. So when you have air conditioning, both units are running, and they come on together.
Okay.
Okay, obviously we're not running the furnace during the AC season, but the control center for the system is a part of the furnace or air handler. So it's a great idea to look at your preventive maintenance checklist and make sure that your contractor is checking both sides, upstairs or in the house and the outdoor unit.
Oh, definitely. Especially since gas, carbon monoxide, or all kinds of good stuff.
Sure.
So let's go and jump to the regulations with AC units. There's so many, facts, myths, fiction. As a homeowner, and I have an older home. I have, they're not, brand new units. What should those people that have those older units be concerned about if they're coming to that time where they may have to replace?
Sure. So the average air conditioning system for a home, their life cycle is anywhere from about 8 to 12 years.
Okay.
Okay. So as we're getting closer to 8, we probably need to be thinking and budgeting for something like that. We get to 11, 12 years, we're on borrowed time.
Yeah.
And the system's probably not as efficient as when you first bought it.
Okay.
Okay. So those are good parameters to start talking or talking to your contractor if you're having that maintenance. They're typically telling you what the performance of the system is, and there are ways to tell if that compressor is not quite performing like it was designed. You didn't ask this question, but I'm going to go ahead and answer it.
Okay.
Is that, when would I think about replacing my system if it's over 8 years old?
Right.
And I have a repair that's over $500 to $1,000, it's probably time to look at that.
Okay.
If you have replaced a component, like maybe just the outdoor unit,
Right.
okay, but the indoor unit is still aging, same thing applies.
Okay.
So typically it's best to have a matched system. So when you replace a system, replace it all together.
Okay.
But sometimes the budget just doesn't handle that.
Right,
Yeah.
right. No, and sometimes people just are trying to do the immediate
Yep.
fix. But I know I like that, that perimeter on cost, because that can also, not just for the system, the newer system, but it's also going to be more efficient, which is then going to obviously save you for your electric bills. And so, I think a lot of us think of that immediate cost and we're like, at least I do. I'm like, oh my goodness. And we don't look at the long-term, savings that were going to occur. So that's a good food for thought. So I guess, on the AC, if there was like one tip, one thing you would want someone to always remember, if they forget everything else, what would you tell them?
Change your filter. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the one thing. And if you think in terms of what causes an air conditioning system to break down.
Yes.
80% of the agents or the things that cause that are in the exterior of the system.
Okay.
And we can just boil that down to say dirt.
Yeah.
Okay. If it gets dirty, it just doesn't run properly.
Right.
Okay. And so filters and outdoor units being clean. On the heating side, on the furnace, making sure that burns clean, because now we're talking about a safety issue.
Right.
So
Yeah.
The one tip is have it regularly maintenance and checked.
Yeah.
You would never imagine driving your car for 6 months and not having the oil changed.
Right.
Okay. The equivalent of an air conditioning system running and how many hours it runs versus having it checked is about 4 to 5 times what you would check in between oil changes on your car. So we just aren't real kind to our systems.
Yeah. No,
And,
we aren't.
and it's really just keep them clean.
Well, and right now with everything, I mean, clean.
Yes.
Everyone's home. It's a good time to have somebody out to your house. And
This is
have
a
your
good time.
systems maintenance.
And let's talk about that. So when the service, people are, with service hiring, outside service providers, and I've had some people that are very hesitant to bring anyone in the home. And then can you kind of your proper procedure when your service person goes out? How are they dressed and equipped for
Sure.
our time?
Sure.
Right now?
So our technicians are going to be uniformed.
Okay.
They'll have a name badge. I think when you start talking about comparing companies and what
Yeah.
to look for, you get a sense right off the bat what
Yeah.
the culture of the company is.
Yeah.
And so I think the best companies offer options
Okay.
and let the consumer make the decision, where we play a consulting role of saying, well, take the example of a compressor that fails.
Right.
Just based on the few things that we've talked about today, if somebody comes to your home and you lose a compressor in the second or third year, it's probably under warranty.
Right.
Okay. Just the rules of 8 years being the time to start thinking about that. If they're talking about replacing your unit, I'm sure your watchers are well informed and maybe get a different opinion.
Okay. Cool. Very good. So we've learned a lot today. The number one thing to take away from this episode is change your filters. So everyone, either if you're going to have your AC service, get them through your AC service, or go to Home Depot tonight and go get your filters box. Get it for 6 months, because then you'll know that you've got to have the unit serviced. Keep a check on it and watch it. It should be, just like, I kind of use my rule of thumb for everything is just like you're going to eat, you fuel your body. Everything else in your house is just like a person. And so you've got to maintain it. And you've got to take care of it and nurture it. And that's what you should do with your AC unit. So this is great, guys. Yes. And we're going to have their contact information below. So you can, if you haven't had your AC service, give these guys a call and, get them out, get your service done. It may save you a lot of money in the long run. So,
Absolutely.
Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Cheers to summer.
Yay!
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to contact Kimberly with your real estate needs, you can reach her at kimberlywoodard.ebby.com. We hope you enjoyed our guest this week, and remember, don't just love your home, love your community.